The Committee of Inquiry hearing into the Little India riot is into its sixth week, and so far it's heard from uniformed representatives who are on the ground, non-government organizations which work with foreign workers, and residents and business associations in Little India. A key group of witnesses has been police officers who were deployed to deal with the rioters, and their actions have been the subject of some intense questioning. The final witness from the police force is Police Commissioner Ng Joo Hee. He'll take the stand on Tuesday. Leung Wai Kit takes us through some of the exchanges between the committee and the officers and brings us some of the flavour of the questioning.
The aftermath of the riot has led to many questions. What did the police do and not do? And how did this affect the outcome of the riot? The hearing started off on a relatively cordial tone when he heard from Deputy Assistant Commissioner, or DAC Lu Yao Lim, the ground commander, that night. The committee said its aim was to find out facts rather than blame or fix any particular person. But that soon gave way to some tough questions that were put to DAC Lu in some of the most heated exchanges of the inquiry so far. DAC Lu was grilled repeatedly on various issues like why he waited for some 30 minutes for backup before engaging the rioters. Well, he said this was because he and his 8 officers were outnumbered and surrounded by some 150 people. But committee member 23Mar said DAC Lu's decision to wait was unacceptable. But DAC Lu stood by his decision, and he said it would have been unsafe to engage the rioters as they were badly outnumbered. Committee Chairman G. Paneerselvam then told DAC Lu that there were in fact about 10 cars worth of police officers. The chairman also said DAC Lu had chosen to remain behind shields and did nothing. While DAC Lu was responding to this, Mr. T jumped in. He said DAC Lu did not keep on top of the situation and was unaware that rioters had burned vehicles while he was waiting for backup. At one point, the exchanges veered off track when Mr. Selvam noticed DAC Lu reading from some notes. DAC Lu said these were meant to help jog his memory, but the chairman did not accept this and said he was reading from a prepared script. There was also disagreement over the priorities of the riot police. DAC Lu admitted that property had been damaged, but he stressed that no lives had been lost. But Mr. Selvam disagreed that this should be the aim of riot control. However, DAC Lu insisted that it's morally wrong to prioritize property over human life. The committee pressed DAC Lu on whether it occurred to him that the rioters would be emboldened by the police's lack of action. He said the police could have charged at the crowd, but his assessment was the rioters were more likely to attack the police rather than disperse if he had done so. Now, DAC Lu was also grilled on why he didn't seem to know he had about 100 officers under his command that night. The questioning became heated on several occasions. This prompted DAC Lu to refute the idea that choosing to wait for backup amounted to doing nothing. He declared he was being grilled left, right, and center. He felt he had taken a huge risk in deciding to hold his position. Now, the exchanges cooled down when the transcriber stepped in to say she could not make out what was being said as they were all talking over each other. But Mr. T persisted in bringing up the fact that DAC Lu and his team had a full half hour, yet did nothing before the Special Operations Command or SOC troopers arrived. In response, DAC Lu said it wasn't a case where he was merely having a coffee while waiting for backup. Now, he said he had a hard time trying to prioritize and assess what was happening while trying to gather information from his men and instructing the SOC to come in full gear. The committee also heard from SOC's Deputy Commander, DAC David Scott Arul. Now, he said the level of violence at the riot was something he had never experienced before. And the unfamiliar scene was why he chose to disperse the crowd instead of making mass arrests. Now, despite this, his troopers were able to quell the riot. Now, when asked about how the SOC managed to disperse the crowd without any violence, DAC Scott Arul said the sight of SOC officers advancing in full gear was intimidating enough. But Mr. Selvam continued to stress that the rioters had a field day until the SOC arrived. But some officers were also singled out for praise, like Assistant Superintendent or ASP Jonathan Tang, the first senior officer to arrive at the scene. Mr. Selvam said he would have given ASP Tang a medal if he could. The committee also heard that from the time he arrived on the scene until the riot was quelled, ASP Tang had consistently and constantly been thinking on his feet and assessing the situation. Now, he had directed some officers to form a human shield in the middle of some 200 people. That is to allow the SCDF officers to move the body of Mr. Saktivel Kumaravelu, who had been killed in the accident which sparked the riot. ASP Tang also moved injured SCDF officers away from the scene, but he returned to help other officers who were also hurt. The committee will hear from one more representative from the police force. Police Commissioner Ng Joo Hee is expected to give a comprehensive overall review of his officers' actions on the night of December 8, 2013.